Hello, everyone. Good day. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our special forum broadcast where we are going to discuss on a topic which is so close to home, and that is multicultural and multilingual education in Malaysia. My name is Thomas Mason Lim, an officer from the Social Research Department of the Ministry of Education and your faithful moderator for today's session. With us here today are Mr. DARREL Wong, an English language teacher from SJKC Anglo-Chinese Methodist School, Sarawak, Madam DORA RAKI, a proud mother of three who works as a clerk at Maju Jaya Sendirian Berhad Putrajaya, Madam SARINA binti SANI, a senior assistant of administration from SK Pulau Buloh Hitam Penampang, and also Miss LIZA Michelle Lim, a secondary school student from SMK Gagak Merah, Johor. Thank you everyone for joining us today. It is a great honor to have all of you here to give insights from various points of view on the topic for our discussion. Before we begin, how are all of you doing today?
It's been great.
Very great, good. I feel happy to hear that. So, ladies and gentlemen, what an interesting
nice
topic.
To see you today.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Madam Dora. Glad to hear that. So, looking at our topic today, where you see Jacqueline Jordan Irvin in her book, Educating Teachers for Diversity, she mentioned that culture, race, and ethnicity, aside from social class, they all influence the teaching and learning processes. So through thorough analysis of current conditions and reforms in education, she offered suggestions and practices for improving educational outcomes for all children. So as an academician herself, her ideas may seem relevant to a certain extent, but in our context, ground level citizens, especially in the field of education, what we think about this topic may differ. So to begin our discussion, Madam SARINA, first of all, thank you for being here today. To provide the audience and also the members of the panel with a kickstart, tell us, if you were to give your point of view, how would you describe multicultural and multilingual education, especially from the point of view of a senior assistant?
Well, thank you, Mr. Thomas, for the question. Okay, let me share a bit on the races that we have here in my school. So the dominant race that we have are around 5, which are Malay, Brunei, Bajau, Kadazan, and Dusun. However, there are many other minority ethnicities here. So looking at my school itself, I am grateful that we are able to be under one roof peacefully. And how does that happen? So the keywords that I, as the senior assistant in school, always keep in my mind is through readiness to accept others, understanding their culture, and foremost, respecting each other. Yes. So that is multicultural education to me. So in an article that I read by James A. BENG, 1993, he mentioned that multicultural education is open to others. So what I like the most about the concept is that it is designed for all to function effectively in a culturally and ethnically diverse nation. It acts as an architect to generate pupils who are knowledgeable, caring, and active citizens. As senior assistant too, I ensure that I deliberately delegate the duties equally to all of my teachers. What I mean is that I ensure that I assign an equal weightage in every task and role despite their races or skin color. I also make sure that teachers from different cultural backgrounds work together regardless of their race. For instance, if I am conducting an academic program, I will guarantee they play their part in the community where it comprises a mixture of different races. What I practice here is to be aware of the sensitivity of others whenever it comes to programs with my teacher. In a nutshell, I think multicultural and multilingual education are being imposed successfully with the condition that there is an awareness from the top management in school too.
Such a considerate senior assistant, Madam Sarina. I do agree that teachers of all races should work together as a group, as I myself have experienced it before because I was among the minority and I'm not proficient in their mother tongue. I wish I'm good at the language.
Very true, Madam Sarina and Mr. Darrell. I can see my own school teachers working well together, and this has created a harmonious environment in my school, and it is a great example for us young students.
Yes, I totally agree with that, yeah, Madam Sarina, Mr. Darrell, and Miss Liza. I guess in simpler words, education should be fair for all, including the learners and the teachers, am I right? So now, Mr. Darrell, as a teacher, how is the situation in your school? You know, from the aspect of it being a place with many cultures in one.
First and foremost, thank you for the question, Mr. Thomas.
Okay,
Well, talking about the situation in my school, I guess I will share with you in detail from three aspects, mainly from my colleagues, my pupils, and also the parents in my school. Well, for your information, my school, even though it's known as a Chinese national type school, however, this school is a combination of national and national type systems, which means the first two classes are in SK, last class is in the SJKC system. We are led by only one headmistress in the same staff room under one roof. Guess what? I do face some challenges despite I'm a Chinese who speaks multiple languages. From the aspect of colleagues, I realized that I have problems when it comes to communicating with them. I can understand Mandarin a little bit in both spoken and written. I speak fluent Bahasa Sarawak and a little bit of Bahasa Iban perhaps. And you know, when you try to get along with colleagues from multicultural backgrounds, sometimes they would talk in their own mother tongue. Hence, I would feel like an outsider when I don't manage to blend into their conversation. Vice versa, when I speak Bahasa Sarawak, some teachers who don't speak will feel the same too. So at times, it's really hard for me to get along with each other unless we speak the same language. But well, you know, sometimes we just couldn't get rid of the language we used to speak because of the majorities around us. For my classroom, among my pupils, take my SK class for example. I have roughly 30 pupils in my class, and the ratio of my pupils is around 3 to 1 to 1. I have around 18 Kedayan students, 6 Ibans, and 6 Chinese. As I can barely speak Mandarin, like what I mentioned earlier, and also Bahasa Iban as well, as zero knowledge of Kedayan language. I find myself having hard time delivering instructions and applying classroom strategies in both SJKC and also SK classes. BM is rarely used because the majority of the community here is Kedayan. However, it is still understood to a certain extent. Hence, whenever I'm doing any English lesson activities, I would need to do some code missing or even code switching when I'm delivering my lesson. It was really challenging as I have to use whatever Kedayan language vocabulary that I know to explain it to my students so that you know they would not fail to understand the context. Now, the same issue goes to the parents, but it's slightly better because they understand BM. However, the difference that I can see here among parents is their concern on their children's progress in school. I guess it could be the influence of their culture passed down from the family. Maybe it could be a clearer picture if I give you an example. For instance, if we look into the ethnography of my school, the community here is majority Kedayans. The expectations in children's learning are very minimum and it's very different compared to other parents. As long as their children are not being illiterate, it is considered a success for them in education. I believe this is because the community here mostly involves in small businesses and entrepreneurships. They're not really from low incomes families, I suppose. They're mostly in B40 and M40. Perhaps I guess it is their own will to have their children inherit their family business and also entrepreneurship. Thus, not putting too much concern and weightage on what professional career that they want their children to achieve in the future.
Wow, it's actually my first time, yeah, Mr. Darrell, hearing about a mixed type school. It is not something we hear every day, I'll say. Well, since it's something new to us, would you mind to give us a clearer picture in a sense of, is your school highly accepting towards various cultures? And personally, is there anything within the school environment that you would like to change?
Oh, definitely. I can see everyone is working hard to blend into the community in this village where the school is located. My school has always been accepting highly of various cultures. During the school year and ceremony, most of the time, we will always have performances from different cultural backgrounds. I guess the only thing that I need to change is I myself. I need to be more proactive and self-initiated in order to learn more languages to blend myself as one of them, regardless of my skin color, also my cultural identity.
You know what, Mr. Gerald, that is what I mean by this must begin from within, isn't it? From ourselves.
Yes.
Couldn't agree more, Madam Sarina. I believe this is what everyone should do in a multiracial country. What's this again if you're a teacher who plays the role as an agent of change? We need to change ourselves first, I think, before we change the world. This is also in line with the recent article that I have came across. It was written by Peter 2015, and he mentioned that teachers should be in the position to help end the culture wars by activating dual purposes of culturally responsive teaching. And on top of that, I do also hope I'll be able to implement more school academic activities that involve parents in the future. As Michael Chow and Noli 2012, they also say that parents' involvement in homeschool partnership can reach the shared goals together in education to make it a success.
That's fantastic, Mr. Darrell, brilliantly said. Ladies and gentlemen, in the education sector, of course, we have many stakeholders, as we can see over here. And one of them, even though they are silent most of the time, are actually the parents. They are the most important ones, in fact. And today, we have Madam Dora to share with us her thoughts as a parent. So, Madam Dora, allow me to ask, from what I've heard from you before the show, you said that your children are attending an SJKC school, which is a Chinese school. If you don't mind, tell us what made you decide to send your children to a Chinese school as you are not a Chinese yourself. And also, why did you want them to attend a Chinese school?
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Let me first share a little bit about myself. I'm currently working as a clerk in Putrajaya. Both my husband and I are Sarawakians, and we are Bidayu. When my children were still small, I saw many of my friends were sending their kids to SJKC. They gave me positive feedback, and that's why I made the decision to send them to SJKC. Other than that, I want my children to learn the culture of other races. Even though it's an SJKC, the pupils enrolled there came from different races. That's why I think that it's a fair decision. I want my children to make friends with people, and this will indirectly help them improve their social skills. Besides that, learning a third language in our country is important. Learning Mandarin language is also very important because it is a language of trade. Malaysia is a multiracial country, so I think mastering the different languages makes it much easier for them to communicate and understand each other. I wouldn't worry about them feeling isolated because there are also many non-Chinese attending the school.
I would like to agree with Madam Dora here because I myself is a product of a Chinese primary school as well. My parents also sent me to a Chinese primary school, and I do think that I am very lucky to be able to speak more languages than other people, and it is an advantage for me to pick up another language.
True.
Indeed, Liza. Apart from that, I also believe that the quality of education in SJKC is good. It has a high level of discipline and strict learning methods which shape my children to be more mature and think critically. My children become more independent, mature, and disciplined because the teachers teach them to think rather than learning solely from books.
Wow.
I believe that although the teachers are mostly Chinese, they won't treat their pupils unfairly.
Mhm.
To my surprise also, there was a Malay teacher teaching there and she is very fluent in Mandarin. I did ask her once about her choice of career. She admitted that one of her Malay friends had questioned her choice to teach Mandarin, which was seen as if she regarded the language as being more important. But she never let the criticism bother her. So, in a way, I felt more confident of my choice in sending my kids to a Chinese school.
Wow, now I understand better. But you see, I honestly think that I'm sure that there were problems which could have happened before, yeah, be it with your children or you yourself as a parent. So, what are the efforts which you have taken to overcome those problems or difficulties? Or rather, what would you like to do to help your children assimilate better into the school community, Madam Dora?
Yes, Mr. Thomas. Undeniably, there are problems. Pardon me, Mr. Thomas. There are problems, especially in the beginning when I sent my eldest son to SJKC and he questioned my decision. Eventually, when he met his friends there, he became more comfortable.
Mm.
Later on, his younger brother and sister had less issues. However, it is only difficult because both my husband and I, we don't know the Mandarin language. We never went to SJKC.
Mhm.
So we can only help our children with BM and English homework. That's why send them for Mandarin tuition so that they won't have problems in class. I could see some other parents struggling with their kids, and this make their kids struggle also at school. So I believe when we decide to send our kids to a Chinese school, we must be prepared mentally. I'm not saying that national schools are anything less. It's just that the challenges are different, especially when we are non-Chinese. As a mother, I have some kind of trouble when attending any programs at the school. I notice that we parents only mix among the same races or economic background. I feel intimidated to mix with Chinese parents, though I see our children have no problem in doing that. Maybe it is only my own perception. Maybe I should be braver to mix with them in the future, I guess.
Yes, I honestly believe that, bravery will bring you further, yeah. So, honestly, I think I can relate to that. I guess it is just normal, parts and parcels of life, isn't it? Well, thank you, Madam Dora, for sharing. Moving on, let's go to our student here today. Hello, Liza. So, Liza, being in secondary school is not easy, isn't it? Furthermore, you are in a school with many cultures, being together most of the time at the same time, right? So tell us, what are your peers like? Are they multicultural, or do you only mix around with those of the same race?
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. A very good day to everyone. I will start by telling you a little bit about myself. I was born in Sarawak. My father is a Chinese and my mother is Bidayu. I had my primary education in Sarawak and I only started my study at SMK Gagak Merah Johor only when I entered Form 1. On my first day of school, I did feel like it was a whole new world to me, as a majority of my peers there speaks with what we call the peninsular slang. And being born and raised in a Chinese and Bidayu surrounding, I did find it difficult to fit in at first, as I did not speak the way my other classmates do. So I somehow felt like an outcast. I felt that way for a few days until one of my teachers talked about a topic related to Sarawak, and that teacher also pointed out that I was from Sarawak, and the other classmates should ask me more about Sarawak State. It was from that moment, one by one, my classmates came to approach me and ask me about Sarawak and also my culture. At that time, my classmates began to have an interest in talking to me, even though we sometimes had some language barriers.
Barriers? What sort of barrier do you mean, Liza?
Oh, the barriers that I'm talking about here are like the use of different terms, or we even have the same word with different meanings. For example, the word lawa in Bahasa Melayu means pretty, but in Sarawak, it means arrogant.
Wow.
So to answer your questions, Mr. Thomas, about my peers, I do have multicultural and multilingual friends. All thanks to my teacher, I have different races of friends, and because I can also speak Chinese, so I have quite a handful of Chinese friends too. To add on, I think it is really fun to be in a multicultural and multilingual school, because we are able to learn about each other's cultures, and there are so many interesting elements in other people's culture.
Fantastic, Liza. It seems like you're having a good time in school now, right? So, as a student, have you ever experienced anything in school which made you feel like the odd one out? Tell us a little bit more about that, Liza.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Thomas. This question is actually quite interesting to me, as I did have an unforgettable but a little bit funny experience where I felt like an outsider. I think it happened a few months after I started school at SMK Gagak Merah Johor. During that time, I was already able to make a lot of new friends in that school despite our cultural differences. The incident happened during recess time when I was so hungry, and my Chinese friends and I decided to eat at our school's canteen. So during that time, we all bought nasi lemak, and then as soon as we found a table and sat down, I started eating using my hand. After that, I realized that all my Chinese friends were weirded out by me because I am a Chinese and yet I ate using my hand, like how the Malays eat. It was then when I realized that it was another cultural difference. So I started explaining to them that in Sarawak, especially being raised by a mixed marriage parents like me, we often eat with our hands too. So I think that was the time where I feel kind of like the odd one out. But worry not, now my Chinese friends are used to me eating like that, so I no longer feel that way. And my friends are all very kind, and we're still having fun learning about each other's cultures.
Yes, that sounds so good. Your friends are treating you nicely now, right? So
yes,
let's go back to Madam Sarina, our senior assistant teacher. Yeah. Based on what you have heard, Madam Sarina, what would you say that you as an administrator, what can you do to make schools a more welcoming place for the community?
Okay. Honestly, I am so proud, to have heard what Liza had shared just now. To me, that was, an evidence that the system works, right? So it's just a matter of adaptation and accepting. Well, promoting multicultural education is best done through role models. I would start for myself. So as administrator, I think I have adapted well among my teachers through any academic program handled by us. But sometimes I, personally would love to learn more about the culture and pick up some languages of other races so that I can apply a more rational justification in every decision making. So I recommend that we need more awareness and appreciation of diversity in our community. In school assembly, for example, in order to inculcate appreciation to other races, maybe we can come up with a program that can introduce a very simple informal language used by every race we have in school, such as introducing yourself in your language in a weekly school assembly. So not only the dominant races, but also the minority, so that they felt fully accepted. And teachers, for example, might have a special day to wear traditional clothes of other races. That could be considered as another approach. Instead of wearing your own traditional costumes, why don't we try a traditional costume of other races? If you look at the 5 dimensions introduced by James Bank, this approach could help in empowering school culture, where we encouraged every person in our school to accept others' culture through small programs like that. So I truly believe it has a positive impact, not only to the pupils, but also to the teachers. So what we have practiced in my school here was the PTA programs, where we always organize community work in our school, such as Majlis Gotong Royong, where it involves parents and teachers directly. This program must be held annually or continuously, because in this community work itself, I had a chance to mix up the parents and teachers in groups so that they can get acquainted to each other. Programs like this inculcate multicultural education whenever we can put them in one place, right? So as administrator, we also take the opportunity to appreciate every race, such as gathering with the PTA and the pupils after every major festival. Ramah Tamah Idul Fitri, for instance, we invited all parents, regardless of their race, when they attend the community work or program that we organize, that are the agent, they are the agent of promoting multicultural and multilingual education. As to make it happen, they are part and parcel of it.
Yes, I totally agree with you, Madam Sarina, where you mentioned celebrations of major festivals can bring people together. I remember myself having such an experience in school back then. Thank you for sharing, Madam Sarina. But the biggest question now here, ladies and gentlemen, I would say, is whether what we have today is enough. Are we doing enough for this multicultural society which we are living in? Referring to what Madam Sarina mentioned earlier, working together harmoniously is important, and also how we are able to fit oneself into the community. And these are actual real life issues and situations which we have often taken for granted. And also problems like what Miss Liza and Madam Dora have mentioned about how a person might feel left out because of their race or culture. And these are actually issues or points which we need to look into. And it needs to be looked into by policymakers and various stakeholders in the field of education, yeah? And one might say, yes, as we have the CEFR curriculum, which includes the cultures from other countries, we have civic education, which is included into our lessons, yeah? At least once per month. And they say that eventually our learners will be adapted to the multicultural society. But is it really enough? Can these cater to the needs of the society? Hearing the thoughts of our guests today, I think it is safe to say that we need to inculcate awareness among every member of the community. Acceptance by others is now a privilege to many. Yeah, and I believe that the main goal is to make sure that no one feels left out. Respect towards others should be increased, love should be spread further. And when all of these separate goals are put into one together, only then we will be able to have a perfectly implemented multicultural and multilingual community. And it is high time for everyone, aside from students and teachers, we also have ministries, schools, and policymakers, It is time for everyone to make changes for a better way forward for the betterment of the nation and also its people. How? We don't know. I guess the view of our speakers here today have brought some light into this issue, and it has answered a huge part of the question. All there's left to do now is for us to take action. Ladies and gentlemen, that is all the time we have for today. I wish we had more time to talk more, but I believe this would not be the last of this conversation, as there will be actions which need to be taken right away. And before we go, once again, thank you to all of the members of the panel for being here today. And we really appreciate your thoughts and ideas. Till the next time, everyone, take care, stay safe, and bye-bye.
Bye, guys.